guys, welcome to the BFF Report. I'm your host, Mike B, aka Phony, and today we're going to be talking about the top 5 most controversial games of 2011. I was going to pick up something else because I figured I was sick last week and, maybe everybody forgot about 2011 like it never happened. And then I asked, you guys hook me up some games? And pretty much the top comments were, hey, let's not forget about the top of 2010 that you did. We should do it again for 2011. So here I am today. Let's kick things off with Duke Nukem Forever. And I know that every list of crappy games from 2011 has this game on its list, but this isn't a crappy games list. Anybody could go out and find, 5 to 10 crappy games and be like, this game was crap, this game was crap, boom, there you go, bam, put this video out. Now, this is about the controversy that surrounds these games. Duke Nukem Forever came out. It may not have been the worst game of 2011 to some of you, but it was definitely not the best game by any stretch of the imagination, especially for those of us who were waiting for so long for this thing to come out. There was a time where we all thought this was vaporware. Anyways, my point is that this is a list of controversial games. This is when the crazy stuff happens surrounding these games and these studios. This is the kind of stuff that we're talking about today. And at number 5, it is Duke Nukem Forever, and it has damn well earned its spot in this top 5 countdown. We can start things off by pointing out things like, what happened, Duke? 15 years later, suddenly you can't carry more than 2 weapons? Boy, that sucks. And maybe some other things, like, for example, how this game focused on all of the lewdness and just the things that were flavor in Duke Nukem 3D. And I understand that saying that chicks with large breasts dancing is flavor, but hear me out for a second. In Duke Nukem 3D, when you're playing the game, the jokes and looking in the mirror and damn, I'm looking good, and the pissing, and then the shake it, baby, right? That stuff was flavor. That's not what the game was about. It was just there to put attitude into the game. And for some reason, they forgot to add all the other cool stuff that we really enjoyed about Duke Nukem 3D. The maps, the way that you could free roam everything, incredibly awesome. Multiplayer, laying pipe bombs everywhere and setting traps for other players. Like, the multiplayer is really what I grew up on, and I thought that was just so great. And it felt so much better than playing Doom 2, playing even Marathon. I love Marathon for the campaign side. The multiplayer was just okay, honestly. Let's be honest here. Rise of the Triad, if that thing ever worked, that multiplayer was pretty good too. But for the most part, Duke Nukem 3D had just the sickest multiplayer available at that time. But that is not why they are on this list. They are here because their PR people, the Redner Group, decided to get very unhappy very publicly, and this is not something you do. You see, the way it works is, as a member of the press, if you do video game reviews, you end up getting free games sometimes. And so you get put on a list for free games. Now, there is a list of do not send free games to this person, and it's usually pretty quiet. I used to get free games. I don't anymore. I could probably speculate as to why. It's probably because of stuff like this video. But whatever, I'll just buy them and hope people click on ads and then I'll move on. Now, on that list of places you don't come out publicly and say things that you probably shouldn't say public is definitely Twitter. And the Redner Group definitely went on there and said, too many went too far with their reviews. We are reviewing who gets games next time and who doesn't based on today's Venom. Now, to be fair, I'm pretty sure he probably meant the people that went too far. But what is defined as too far? And also, wow, what's with this list? Oh, suddenly there's a list of people that don't get games anymore because they decided to come out and be honest with their reviews. That's a little unfair, wouldn't you say? Especially since some of these people actually rely on this kind of stuff in order to continue being a part of this industry. Every news media site picked this thing up and started talking about it, and it was just more negative press for Duke Nukem Forever. And even 2K Games came out on their Twitter and said, 2K Games does not endorse or condone the comments made by the Redner Group and confirmed they no longer represent our products. And that is what makes Duke Nukem Forever an obvious pick for number 5 on this countdown. And coming in at number 4 is everything Sony. Holy crap, man. 2000 will always be known as the year that everybody got a piece of that Sony. I don't even know where to start, but we're just going to go ahead and go with PlayStation Network. So the breach happened there between the April 17th and the 19th, but they didn't say anything until the 26th. And here's what got stolen. PlayStation Network names, addies, passwords, usernames, addresses, pretty much everything was taken. And they came out and they say, hey, only 10 million of these 70 million had credit cards on the account. What's the big deal, guys? Well, the big deal is, besides the fact that there's 10 million pieces of information out there, is that they waited so long. They just kept it a secret. And it was such a big deal that the US House of Representatives, British and Canadian privacy authorities, and even the Taipei Taiwanese government was pissed at them. They were down until May 15th, and unfortunately some games required online access to play, which means they weren't playing shit for almost a month. Now on the other side, SOE games were also getting hit, but they actually lost credit card information, about 12,700 of them. But it's cool, again, because only 900 were active cards. I mean, those guys, right? Coming in at number 3 in our countdown of most controversial games of 2011 is CCP's Eve. First, let's go ahead and draw up a personality sheet for CCP and Eve and their devs and players. Likes boxing, likes chess boxing, consistently scamming each other out of thousands of dollars worth of in-game currency. Pretty much a bunch of guys you like to go drinking with when you're broke. It all started with the upcoming release of their 98th free expansion, Incarna, and with it came a new form of currency and an item store. This new currency, Aurum, can be bought with Plex. Plex can be bought with both ISK and real money. Plex can also be used to pay for subscription fees. Plex is an in-game item that can be lost, stolen, embezzled, or destroyed. But that's not the point. With Incarna brought the ability to walk around inside of your ship, and a lot of players just did not like it at all, for a couple of pretty good reasons. One, multi-client frame rate issues, and a lot of players have more than one account. And apparently the captain's quarters area, which is where you walk around in, was not quite optimized as well as being out in open space. That just kind of makes sense. Number 2, the experience of handling your ship was not quite as fluid as it was before the addition of the captain's quarters. And number 3, some of them felt that the captain's quarters was merely a display case for the items that came with the Noble Exchange, or their cash shop, making reasons number 1 and number 2 all that more infuriating. Eventually, though, they made the decision to go ahead and add back in the option of disabling the ship interiors. Whew, I'm glad that's cleared up. But wait, there's more. You see, on the flip side of this, players were also pissed at how much stuff cost, and this whole thing actually got named Monocle Gate for a good reason. A monocle that goes on a character that you can only see inside of the captain's quarters or your avatar costs like $70-$80. Players actually started rioting in-game trying to actually destroy the economy in order to prove a point. And that point was that they did not want a cash shop in their game, period. But there was nothing they could do to stop it, as outlined by the leaked newsletter that came out roughly around the same time all this stuff was happening. Oh my gosh. The internal newsletter was actually titled Greed is Good, and it was filled with views and opinions from various CCP employees talking about the implementation of the cash shop and their thoughts on it. Unfortunately, a lot of this was taken out of context. For example, I would like virtual goods sales in Eve. In fact, I'd sell a lot more than vanity items. Does this mean I'm an evil capitalist? Unless stopped, will cause the entire company to catch fire and buried at sea by a secret team of Navy SEALs? Let's hope not, although that's the impression I get when dealing with some of our customers. We're going to face an uphill struggle, and the reason many of us never talk about this publicly is that we'd be burned at the stake by the players. Boy, that really sucks when that kind of stuff comes out to the players. But this doesn't mean that this is CCP's stance on all of this, right? This is just one guy's opinion. Unfortunately, it doesn't come off like that when it's actually titled Greed is Good, CCP internal newsletter. You see? And it didn't even stop there. It was just a mess. You see, maybe a few days or a week later, there was an email that was also leaked that said, quote, "Currently, we are seeing very predictable feedback on what we are doing. Having the perspective of having done this for a decade, I can tell you that this is one of the moments where we look at what our players do and less of what they say. Innovation takes time to set in, and the predictable reaction is always to resist change." Ouch. Eventually, CCP Games CEO Hilmar came out and said, "The estrangement from CCP that many of you have been feeling of late is my fault, and for that, I am truly sorry." And he basically took the brunt of all of the hate that's been going on in Eve for the past several months. Yes, this whole thing lasted over the course of 4 months. Holy crap. Coming in at number 2 is Mojang's Minecraft and Scrolls. This all started off with Scrolls, more commonly confused with Elder Scrolls, right guys? Well, apparently that's what a whole bunch of Bethesda lawyers think, because they sent a letter to Mojang saying that the name Scrolls infringes on their trademark and everyone will confuse it with Skyrim. This is like World of Warcraft suing World of Goo. Notch even went so far as to say that he would challenge the people at Bethesda to a match of Quake 3, and the winner gets to keep the name. He later in an interview said that if it came to a Quake 3 tournament, I have a feeling we just might have to change the name. Bethesda owns the brand and has several professional Quake players on its payroll. In retrospect, Quake 3 might have been a poor choice. But unfortunately, our world is not that cool. These guys did not duke it out in Quake 3, they duked it out in court. This whole thing actually shook a lot of ground, because if this passed my little World of Warcraft, World of Goo thing, that would actually happen. But thankfully, Notch and Mojang won. The game is called Scrolls. Woo! But wait, they have another game called Minecraft. You may have heard of it. And they had a little thing called Minecon. You may have heard of that. And there's this little podcast thing called Yogscast. You probably heard of them too. So Minecon happened, and I was there, and everything was cool. There was a lot of people there, and it actually went off pretty good considering it was their very first convention. There was a whole bunch of panels set up showing you how to do stuff with the redstone, how to build things, how families get together and play Minecraft, and the Yogscast had their own little setup, and they were talking about all kinds of stuff. They had the whole stage, and they were up there just doing their thing. Everything was fine until Minecon ended. Notch went to Twitter and said that there's certain people that they will not be working with in the future, and they apologized to everybody for their actions. The internet beat him up a little bit, and he came out and said that those people are the Yogscast crew. Now keep in mind, this is a bit weird because you typically don't handle these kind of things in public, especially when you're, the creator of probably one of the biggest games of 2011. And if he keeps going that route, it's probably 2012 too. Notch said, quote, Yogscast repeatedly insulted people, talked behind their backs, refused to cooperate, and acted like a bunch of spoiled divas nonstop. He even went on to say, quote, they claim they're the reason Minecraft is big and that we should thank them more than anyone else in the community. They are total dicks. Unfortunately, the Yogscast crew was not home yet. They were up in the air somewhere for 24 hours, and so they couldn't respond to any of this. And so Reddit Minecraft and the forums, everything was just blowing up with all of this Notch versus Yogscast. Finally, the Yogscast crew get to have their say, and they pretty much said that they didn't do any of the stuff that Notch said, and they said, maybe Notch was a little tired. It was the day after the deadmau5 party. And Notch later reciprocated, saying, hey, sorry for being a dick. It was just a maybe stress-related misunderstanding. It was all pretty much swept right under the rug. But I suppose the only way we're ever going to really know what's going to happen is next year's Minecon. If that happens, if Yogscast shows up. We'll see. And coming in at number 1 on our top 5 most controversial games of 2011 is World of Warcraft and a little bit of Diablo 3. Well, let's go ahead and talk about that first. You see, back in the Diablo 2 days, item trading was almost a must, mainly due to the fact that there were a near infinite number of random loot rolls that made getting the best in slot for your character almost impossible. So trading sites started popping up all over the place. One in particular, D2JSP, has over 650,000 registered users, all there to participate in this third-party trading system. The problem is that the only way to trade the items in Diablo 2 was like it is in every other game, via the client. But you already sent XXFunkyButtLoving69XX your PayPal cash, and guess what? He doesn't show up. So now the buyer's pissed, and guess who he blames? Blizzard. So Blizzard is all like, F all you bitches, we're gonna have our own real money auction house in the game. Oh, and we're also gonna be taking a cut of all the listings. Oh, and if you want the money back, we're gonna take a cut of that too. So it's probably best that you go ahead and, just spend that cash on other auctions so we can continue making money, or just throw it at your WoW account that we locked you into for the next year, which we'll get to in a second. Now, all of what I just said is exactly the way the internet heard it. They just saw Blizzard saying profit, 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 and in a way, they were right. Except that since this is a thing that goes on outside of the game anyways, at least they were keeping it secure with their real money auction house in the game. It's in the client, so it's relatively secure. Matter of fact, it is secure. Gamers, for the most part, were eventually pretty cool with it, but the threat of Blizzard selling gold still loomed. And even though they have said in the past that they have no intentions of selling gold outright to the player base, instead they just kind of waited until the dust settled and then started selling tradable in-game pets, which you obviously can sell for gold. I see what you did there, Blizzard. Now, their other game, World of Warcraft, also has had its fair share of ups and downs this year. Mostly downs. We'll kick things off with June 2011 when Mike Morhaime said on a conference call that World of Warcraft subscriber base was down from 11.1 million to 10.3, saying, quote, so as we're heading further away from the expansion launch, it's normal to see some declines. As our players have become more experienced playing World of Warcraft over many years, they have become much better and much faster at consuming content. And so I think with Cataclysm, they were able to consume the content faster than with the previous expansions. And that's why we're working on developing more content. Content. Yes, okay, well, guess what? Just before this, back in April, they released what's called The Rise of the Zandalari, aka Patch 4.1, which was widely regarded as rehashed content. And guess what came out a month after this call? Rage of the Firelands, Patch 4.2, where the head boss man is Ragnaros. Yes,
the guy for Vanilla Wild Molten Core. This time, however, he comes with 100% more feet, which makes it not rehashed content, right guys? Granted, there really was a whole lot of new stuff there, with the bosses and the dailies and all of that, but when the guy you're killing is something that a billion people have killed before anyways, so what if he has feet? It seemed that no matter what Blizzard did, they just could not find a way to just make things right with the WoW subscriber base. And of course, it did not stop there. BlizzCon comes around, and there's already leaks of Mists of Pandaria. Everyone's like, there's no way that's gonna be the name of it. Pandas everywhere? Come on, that was an April Fool's joke, right guys? Well, it was and it wasn't. Pandarians have been around for much longer than the April Fool's joke, and it's definitely been around a lot longer than the Kung Fu Panda. But unfortunately, perception is everything, and the general pop just sees pandas. That's it, cute, cuddly pandas. My World of Warcraft, with extra emphasis on the war, is gonna be full of kids playing with pandas and Pokemon. And then a few weeks later, Mike Morhaime gets on another conference call to break the news that they have once again lost a substantial amount of subscribers, totaling 1.8 million loss, going from 12.1 million all the way down to 10.3. But with the game going free to play for the first several levels and the annual pass announced at BlizzCon, which, by the way, grants you a free copy of Diablo 3 and an in-game mount in exchange for your contractually obligated agreement of about $150, they may not actually slip below 10 million, but with SWTOR being launched and the next call coming up in about a month, we will find out. Finally, to cap off the year, or depending on where you live, a not-so-great start to 2012, Ghostcrawler breaks his silence on the forums by calling a troll and deleting the thread, and not a second more than 1 hour into the new year. Alright.
Alright guys, that wraps things up for this episode, and that wraps up 2011. There's a couple things that I would really almost made the cut that I felt like could have probably been in there, but they didn't quite make it. For example, the Dead Island feminist horror comment that came out, remember that? Buried in some old code. That was pretty ridiculous, but it wasn't quite enough to carry it, especially against games like Minecraft, and or controversies like the Minecraft one, World of Warcraft, etc., etc. So if there's anything you think that I forgot, let me know in the comments below, and I will see you guys next week. Bye.